Last time on Star Trek, Kelvin. The extra-dimensional trickster known as Q has thrown Captain Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise decades into the future of their own timeline. In this era, the armies of the Dominion have assumed control of most of the Alpha Quadrant, including Earth. A small band of rebels resists Dominion control, but all will be lost if the mad Cardassian Dukat's ultimate scheme succeeds. And now, the story. The USS Defiant streaks down to the resistant planet known as Paradise, only to be met with radio silence. Much to the crew's horror, the Dominion has found the planet and bombed the outpost into rubble. Beaming down, the only survivors to be found are Jake Sisko and Jadzia Dax, the former of which is excited to see his father. Aboard Terok Nor, Dukat has merged with the Pah Wraith and claims that there is now only one power in the galaxy, Dukat. The released Prophet leaps at Kira only for Dukat to strike the Bajoran dead with his newfound power, to Leonard McCoy's horror. The Prophet then vanishes, but this is of no concern to Dukat, who is assured of his victory. In spite of the Cardassians' confidence and McCoy's pessimism, Spock remains confident, for he is assured of one fact: James T. Kirk still lives. On Paradise, Kirk screams for Q, who appears. The omnipotent being reveals that again, despite all the evidence to the contrary, the Dominion's victory is not Q's no-win scenario, rather only a small part of it. Assuring Kirk that his part will soon be done, Q directs him to Sisko, who has now become the host for the last Prophet that disappeared aboard Terok Nor. After examining the Prophet's memories, Sisko insists that they must head back to Terok Nor immediately. Aboard the USS Enterprise, Cardassians and Jem'Hadar man the bridge controls as Dukat orders a course set for the wormhole, intending to ascend. Aboard the station, Pavel Chekhov has finally managed to override their cell's security. As he and Sulu sneak out, they are immediately set upon by the guards escorting McCoy and Spock, the distraction allowing Spock to apply the Vulcan nerve pinch to their captors. Accessing the station's computer, Chekhov finds that the Enterprise is leaving the station. Given that it is extremely unlikely Kirk has regained control of the ship, McCoy then wonders where the rest of the command crew is. As the Defiant drops out of warp just in time to see the Enterprise enter the wormhole, Dukat hails them. He begins taunting them to follow him beyond the event horizon. Though Kirk insists they follow, Sisko overrules him. The Wraiths rule the dimension in the wormhole and are too powerful to be fought before a communication comes in from Chekhov on the station. Kirk reiterates his opinion to rally his troops and follow Dukat, but another voice supports Sisko, that is, of Q. Q steps out from the view screen and highlights the dilemma. If the Defiant follows, it will instantly be destroyed. If the Defiant stays where it is, it will be eventually destroyed. This, as Kirk correctly deduces, is the no-win scenario that Q wanted to show him. The USS Defiant streaks through the wormhole, where James T. Kirk reflects on the sheer hopelessness of the situation, his lack of resources, and that despite his lifelong belief, he is starting to come around to the existence of a no-win scenario. Aboard the ship, Q reveals that the higher species of Pah Wraiths are at war with the Q Continuum, and they are on the verge of defeat. Galvanized by their victory over the Prophets, the Pah Wraiths have turned on their neighbors. Not even the Q can stop the Pah Wraiths' onslaught, because in spite of all their power they wield, they are powerless and clueless as humans in their own realm. At the nexus of the wormhole, other Wraiths possess the body of Dukat's crew to better converse with him. The lead Wraith is impressed by Dukat's willpower, trapping one of their followers, and Dukat offers to free their brother if he can ascend and become a Wraith himself. The Defiant then streaks in. The ship containing the last of the Prophets is the other part of Dukat's offer in order to ascend. Aboard the Defiant, Q is both powerless and at a loss. He had hoped that the Prophet, now possessing Sisko, might be able to defeat the Wraiths, but Sisko reveals that he lacks the power to do so as well. Kirk proposes capturing Dukat and retreating back to their universe just before the Cardassians appear on the view screen and beams them aboard the USS Enterprise. In the Nexus, even the Wraiths are powerless, but Dukat simply grabs a phaser and kills Sisko, who then transfers the Prophet to Spock. After assuring Kirk he is well, Spock uses the Prophet's power to enhance his telepathy, freezing all in place before he mind melds with Q. Q has only a second to praise Spock's cleverness before he flares with power of the Prophet, revealing Spock's plan of combining the power of Q and the Prophet into one being. In this new form, Q has enough power to wipe out both the Wraiths and Dukat with little more than a thought. With that done, he reveals he will be taking the Enterprise home, and that this permutation of the timeline will continue as it should with history back in place. Before they part ways, however, Q reveals the real reason he sought out Kirk. He found himself in a no-win scenario, and knew Kirk could find the path to victory. Kirk clarifies that he does not disbelieve in no-win scenarios because of himself, he disbelieves in them because of the skill of his crew, as Spock has now proven. Agreeing, Q resets everything to the way it was at the beginning of this comic. Back at Mezzanine's 216, Spock records a log noting everything as it was, and only he and Kirk retain the memories of Q and their experience. Meeting in Kirk's quarters, the two discuss whether or not the future Q showed them will come to pass, and whether or not they will see the being again before deciding to play a round of three-dimensional chess. Back aboard the USS Enterprise E in the future, Jean-Luc Picard has settled in for his tea and a book before Q appears again before him, now enveloped by the flaming energies of the Prophet. Not even blinking, Picard simply says he doesn't want to know. This concludes the Q Gambit comic arc series produced by IDW Publishing. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the overall story. So just a quick recap for those of you guys that aren't tracking on the whole thing. Basically, Q brings the Enterprise, Kelvin, out of the timeline, brings him back into the future where the Dominion have taken over both the Alpha and Beta quadrants. Everything's running amok, and he's trying to get them to show him how to outwit a no-win scenario, which in this case is the Q Continuum being destroyed by the Pa Wraiths. What do you guys think of the idea of the Continuum being able to be defeated by the Pa Wraiths? Do you think that that's something that could happen? Do you think that's plausible? And do you think that Q's method of trying to figure out a way to defeat them is a plausible idea? Is it kind of interesting that it was Spock that came up with the idea to imbue the powers of the Prophet into Q? I'm wondering if Q wouldn't have thought of that himself. I feel like he would. He's a pretty clever guy. But anyways, I'm curious to hear what all of you guys and gals think about this comic series. If you enjoyed this video, please throw a like and a subscribe up on the old YouTube, and follow me on Twitter at Ketwolski, and I'll see all of you guys and gals next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!